Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the meeting is recording. You don't have to make any notes. You can directly ask me the questions. All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So let's first understand what ICF is. Okay. So ICF stands for International Classification of Functioning, Disability and Health. Okay. You are always taught that ICF meaning it just ends at function, but also it also covers disability and health. Okay. You know who came up with ICF? It's We might think that it is coming from some physiotherapy, confederation or anything like that. But ICF is something that is generally accepted all over the world, and it is devised by the World Health Organization. Okay, who's in the news for all the wrong things right now. Okay, so the World Health Organization has devised the International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health. If you know, initially they used to do ICD, ICIDH, and all of that. Have you used those models?
No.
Good. They are not even necessary. International Classification of Diseases, ICD is. So they had different
Yeah.
modules of it: ICD-10, ICD-IH, ICD-IH2, and so on and so forth. Okay. So injuries, disability, and I believe health. ICIDH is that. Okay. So it went on revising, and then they came down to ICF. Now, why is ICF so special? I'll tell you. Because usually, whatever models we have seen so far, if you remember the basic biomedical method of assessment, where you do SOAP format, the subjective, objective, assessment, plan, that's looking at the patient in a very mechanical way. It's not considering the patient as a human being. Okay, it's just taking patient as a diseased individual. Okay, but what ICF does is it's looking at the patient as a human being. Okay, so you as a human being are not just someone whom I'm seeing in the hospital. You have a life outside the hospital, isn't it? You go to the community, you have a family, you go to work, you socialize, so that is what it is. And you have come to the hospital because you're not able to do any of that, isn't it? You're not able to socialize, not able to meet your friends, or in some way all those activities have got hampered because of your disease. Okay, the beautiful part about ICF is it looks at you as a human being. It looks at you as your needs and wants and whatever it is that you should be doing as a human being in the society. Okay, that is why this framework has become so popular, and now it is almost the mainstay. It's like the standard of physiotherapy assessment, at least. Because we deal with a lot of rehabilitation, we spend a lot of time with our patients. You're going to see that when you start your fourth year, when you're going to start your treatment, when you see your senior
Yeah,
students,
management.
you're going to see that any physiotherapy procedure is fairly longer than any standard medical procedure. Okay, the medical procedure ends in like a minute or two, but physiotherapy assessments and treatment take at least half an hour. That means you're spending a
Yeah.
lot of time with the patient, and the patient is going to come to you. Okay, they're going to come to you often, like at least 2-3 days in a week. So in that case, just treating them for their disease is never going to be enough. You're going to have to see how your treatment is going to help them gain their function back, because that's what we basically do. We help them regain their function. Okay, is this clear so far? How it is different from the other? Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So right now I'll share my screen with you. Okay, and we'll go through the ICF Beginner's Guide by the World Health Organization. Okay, World Health Organization has some excellent resources on ICF. Okay, and you can follow them absolutely blindly because they are devised by the World Health Organization. ICF is made by the World Health Organization. So you are getting the information straight from the makers of the ICF format. Okay, it's very
Okay.
wise to go to their website and check it out. But right now I'll be sharing my screen, and it's a very beautiful depiction. Okay, they've straightway given what is included and what is not, and everything. Okay, so let me just share my screen right now with you. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Now I can see.
You can see it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the beginner's guide. Okay, look
Yeah.
at it. Towards a common language for functioning, disability, health. Okay, that is what ICF does. Functioning, disability, and
Hey.
health. So basically, disability means what? What do you think disability means? See, there are these different, it's a 20-page beginner's guide, given very nicely. So you have the introduction, what were the other different types of classification, why do you need ICF, who can use it, how can it be used, everything is given. Okay, the model, everything. Okay, so you can definitely refer this. I'm just going to go quickly. See, look at this. They've given it nicely. I'm just quickly going to go to this table over here. You can see this. Okay, this was the
Yeah.
International Statistics Classification of Disease and Related Health Problems. So this was ICD-10. Okay, right? So this is all that it covered. And what we're interested in is in this International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health. All right. Okay. So that is what this thing does. All right. Here they've given needs that you can definitely read later. Okay, but let's move to the important part. Okay, what is included and what is not. So if you notice, right, there you go. See, you can see this very nicely given. So this is your activity. Okay, activity,
Part.
participation, body function and structure, and then your environmental factors and your personal factors. So this is basically related to your health condition and this is related to your contextual factors. Okay, this is just the overview of this. Okay, I'll send this thing to you either on your email or however. Okay, and you can then read it at in detail at your own pace. All right. So this is a suggested reading, okay, for today's lesson. Okay, you will be reading this and you will know whatever I'm trying to explain. That's all going to be clear. Okay. So are you getting bored?
Sorry?
Are you bored?
No, no.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, okay, now I'll stop sharing my screen and let's talk. Okay. So yeah. So now the basic thing that you need to understand is what all is included in the ICF. Maybe now you can make a note of these things. Okay. Just,
Yeah.
just short pointers. Okay. So how to start. Okay. Now you are with the patient. The patient is in front of you. How do you start? Okay. You start with introducing yourself. All that things. I didn't need to tell you that. Okay. You'll tell, okay, my name is, okay, and so I'm going to assess you. All right. And then the patient is going to be like, all right. So now you first take the demographic data of the patient. Okay. Write that down. Demographic data. Okay. First thing that you're going to do is
Yeah.
okay. So demographic data is going to consist of basic things: patient's name, age, gender, residence, address, okay, occupation, all of that. All right. That is what your demographic data consists of. Very basic, very easy. After that, even if it is not included in the format, you'll see the checklist later on. But you should know what the date of evaluation. So when did you meet the patient? Okay, your date of evaluation. Okay, then if the patient is inpatient, okay, if you're seeing the patient in the IPD, okay, then you need to know when was the procedure done on the patient, date of operation or date of admission. Okay, right? If it is an operation, then once you write the date of operation into brackets, you will write post-operative. When did you see him? Did you see him after a week of the operation? Did you see him after a day? Did you see him on the day of operation? If you see him on the day of operation, it's day 0. Okay. If you see him on the day of operation, it's day 0. Later on, it's day 1, day 2, whatever, however. Okay. That way. Okay. So this is your basic thing. This is same for any assessment. Okay. This is not very difficult. Okay.
Yeah.
The next is going to be, now I'll tell you what ICF is. ICF is like a biography of patient. So basically giving patient a celebrity status and you're just wanting to know everything about him. For that moment, you're the patient's fan and you want to know everything about that patient. Okay. So basically you write a history. History is what? His story. Okay, you're going to basically write a story about the patient. Okay, and then in the end, you are going to be that patient's hero, and then you're going to save him from that particular problem. Okay, and that is going to be your management, which is what you're going to learn in fourth year. Okay, so it's like a movie. You know, the actors are introduced, you see them how and everything, the cast is introduced, then there will be some villain, some problem will happen. Okay, and then later on, then in the climax, you're going to fight the villain, and then it's going to be all okay, happy ending. Okay, that's what a case
Yeah.
is. Okay, and except when you're going to present the case, the villain changes. The villain is not going to be the patient or the disease. The villain is going to be the one who's going to take your case. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have to be able to answer everything. Okay, that's the bottom line. I'm not saying your teachers are villains, but just like an analogy, basically something that we
Yeah.
need to tackle. Okay, it's like a movie. So now the characters are introduced. The movie characters are introduced. You know who's in the cast, who is who, and what is what. Now we need to know some background, right? Usually they take us in the flashback, and then we see a background story of the hero, like why did he become this way. Okay, so now the background is going to be the complaints, the present complaints. Okay, why is he come to you? Okay, why has he become like that? So those are your present complaints. Okay, so that is going to be your next heading. You write the present complaints. Okay, okay, present complaints could be anything. Okay, the patient is saying I have pain and I'm not able to do. It's not just I have pain. It is I have pain and I can't do this because of my pain. That's usually how the patient will come to you. If they had pain and it could have been handled by like a aspirin or something, like a dispirin or some anti analgesic, whatever. If they could have done that, then they wouldn't be coming to you. Okay, they're coming to you because the pain is not getting better. Okay, and they are not able to do certain things because of that pain. Okay, and what those certain things are, that is what we're going to find with ICF. Okay, so in the present complaints, you can't just write the patient has pain or the patient has a wound. No, you're going to write the patient is complaining of difficulty in walking, difficulty in taking stairs. I'm just giving you examples. Things that they are not able to do. Okay, difficulty or in working in the kitchen. If the patient has frozen shoulder, they will say, I have difficulty in reaching things above my head. I have difficulty in wearing my clothes. Okay, I have pain in both my shoulders. Things like that. Okay, I have difficulty in dressing, undressing, grooming, all of that. Okay, so that is something that you're going to write in your present complaints, that they are complaining of pain and difficulty in etc etc etc. Could be anything. Okay, all right, are you
Yeah.
getting a call? You want to take it?
No, it wasn't mine. It's my brother's. And
All
anyway, it's a scam.
right. Okay, fine. All right, so far so good, clear. Okay, this is introduction part of it. Okay, so now we know the present complaints. Now we need to know how did those present complaints happen. Okay, so that will come down to history of present complaints. So that's going to be your next title. Okay, write that down. History of present complaints. Okay, some people write it, and I hate it when people do that. HOPC, HOPI. Never do that.
Yeah, even I write like that.
Don't do that. HOPC. Okay, it's really, it sounds like some kind of, I don't know, code language. Anyway, history of present complaints. Okay, I personally like to write history of present complaints in a flow chart. Okay, I like to write it in a flow chart. Okay, and history meaning not everything. Okay, you need to know how to filter out information. Patients can be very talkative. They'll tell you, oh, I was young and I was born, and they'll start their history with all of
In
that.
MGM, in MGM they talk in Marathi and I can't understand Marathi. I don't know. I'm from CBSE now. So I can't understand Marathi. So they keep talking in Marathi. So my friend, whoever is there, she only takes the history because I can't understand it.
Okay,
So I
no
do the
worries.
other
You
thing.
can learn some basic Marathi if you want. Or maybe you could use Hindi. I'm sure a lot of people in Mumbai will understand Hindi. Don't they understand Hindi also?
Yeah, even if I even if I try now, they like in MGM is a government hospital. So
Right, right, right.
most of them. talk in Marathi only.
Right. Okay. Maybe you could learn some basic Marathi if you want. Hmm? We
Yeah.
could have Marathi tuitions also if you want.
That's so difficult language. I won't learn for this.
No, it's okay. Basic Marathi you should know so that it helps you break the ice with the patient. Because now, if suppose you are in your exam, and you get a patient who doesn't speak any other language but Marathi. So when you know little Marathi, it helps you break the ice. Okay, if you greet them a little in Marathi and then you say हम हिंदी में बात करेंगे, so they will agree. Okay, but if you go and you show them, oh, I don't know Marathi at all, then they'll make it very hard for you. Because Marathi people, Maharashtrians, like we are very patriotic
Yeah.
about our language.
Even you are
Yeah,
Marathi.
I'm a Maharashtrian, but I'm not very patriotic.
Even I feel like if I would have been in HSC board, then I would know. I would
That's
actually
fine.
know a little bit
That's fine.
Marathi.
It's okay. It doesn't mean that. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But yeah, so these are some barriers that you might have to overcome. Okay, and I want you
Yeah.
to just show up in the clinics. Okay, go and just see around. It's a lot of learning. Okay, because your fourth year is going to be basically all your four subjects are all about treatment and this thing. You're going to have four practicals and four subjects, isn't it? Is that how it is with you? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a
We
lot of.
have, but now the thing is that like till December the colleges are not going to start maybe because
Yeah, absolutely,
with the
because of
corona. So
COVID.
we don't
Yeah,
have exposure.
yeah, that's sad. That's actually very
Yeah.
bad. But it helps a lot if you go in the clinics and just show up. It helps a lot. Anyway, that's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but for history of present complaints is wherein you have to ask history relevant to the condition. Okay. So now if they have frozen shoulder, for example, I'm just giving you an example. If they have frozen shoulder, then you would be interested in the history. Now depends on what stage of frozen shoulder. Okay. Is he coming to you in the initial stage, pre-adhesive stage, or they have come to you in the frozen stage? Okay, so it's freezing, frozen, and thawing, right? That those three phases. Depends on
We
what
have
phase.
we haven't been taught the stages of frozen shoulder actually.
Okay. Okay, so there are different stages. Any disease basically has different stages. Roughly
Yeah.
every disease will come in the inflammatory phase. Okay, then you will have the
Yeah.
proliferative phase, and then you have
Like
the
like
remodeling
TB.
and reparative and the remodeling phase. Okay,
Yeah.
so depending upon when they are coming to you, you will be deciding the timeline. Okay, how much timeline of history is relevant to you. If they're coming in inflammatory phase, then you're going to be interested in something that happened very recently, within a week. What did they do? Okay, did they fall? Did they hurt themselves? Did they do anything? I'm teaching you all of this, but this gets over like in 5 minutes with the patient. Okay, once you are very well versed with it,
Good at
you'll
it.
quickly be able to do all of this in 5 minutes. I know documentation and everything takes time, but this can be done in 5 minutes if you know how to ask the right questions. Otherwise, the patients will go on and they'll waste your time. Okay, relevant things, something that has happened within a week. Okay, if it is inflammatory, if it is something that is acute, subacute, something that has happened within 2 weeks to 1 month. Okay, if it is chronic, then you might want to ask, okay, have you been having these issues since years? If yes, then how many years? Okay, and how did it start? Okay, what is important is how did it start? This question is like a very basic, specific question. It will not waste your time. Okay, you can't say, okay, so tell me, what is your problem? Okay, so they'll tell you, oh, this happened. Okay, then if you tell them, when did it start? Okay, they'll give you all different history. But if they tell you, oh, if you ask them a pinpoint question, how did it start? So they will tell you that particular instance from where it started. Okay, and then that you can put in a flowchart form. Okay, so maybe you can make a note of it. History of present. I'll send you one of my cases. It will make it easy for you to understand. Okay, so history of present complaints, and you will write them in a flowchart form. Okay, that makes it very easy for you to remember things. Okay, quickly you can remember things and you can put them down, and it looks nice when you present it like that. It looks very presentable. Okay, that's your history of present complaints. Okay, now you're done with the introduction. Okay, so the movie's first half an
So
hour.
the flow chart, like I have to form the flow chart like while
Yeah, so the first thing will be how did it start? Okay, so okay, the patient was doing this, and the patient fell. Okay, then what happened after the patient fell? Okay, you have to be very, very clear in your asking. Okay, so you fell. So were you in your senses? Were you conscious? Were you unconscious? You have to ask that. If you were conscious, then did you help yourself to get up, or did somebody come and help you? You have to be all micro details. Okay, it has to be very, very detailed, whatever it is that you're giving, even if it is in the flowchart form, because these are the questions the person will, your teacher will ask you. Okay, she'll ask you in the practicals. If he fell, what was the mechanism of injury? How did he fall? Did he fall on the tip of the shoulder? Did he fall on an outstretched hand? Did he, fall from a bike? If he fell from a bike, did he fall on his face? Did he fall on his back? Did he fall on the side? Okay, you need to know that. Okay, that will come in your mechanisms of injury. That will come in history of present complaints. Why? Because that mechanism of injury is very important because it will affect particular structure in particular position. Okay, for example, if you have an anterior dislocation of shoulder, okay, what is the classic position in which anterior dislocation happens? It's 90 degrees of abduction and external rotation, and pop, your head is out of your humeral head is out of the glenoid. Okay, so that is your shoulder dislocation, anterior dislocation. Okay, so then you know what the basic way the patient is going to tell you. It could be if the patient supposes recurrent dislocation, they'll tell you, I was in the bus, I was holding, the grab bar or whatever the handle, and somebody pushed me from the front, and my hand went this way and it popped up. Okay, could be like that. In some patients, even such a small trauma can cause dislocation. Or the patient will say, I was on the scooter and I fell this way. I fell this way on my back. Okay, and pop, my shoulder came up. Okay, so you need to know. When you know, okay, I'm not going to tell you, oh, if he was in the vehicle, then how much mph the speed was and all that nonsense. You don't have to. You just need to ask whether the vehicle was fast, whether it was slowing down, or whether it was sudden. How? You need to know that. Why? Because if it's a high velocity trauma, you're going to lose a lot of soft tissue. You're going to lose probably bone also. Okay, usually whenever your bone gets fractured or something, if it's a young person, okay, the velocity of the trauma is very high. It requires a lot of force to break your bone. Your bones are extremely strong. So several newtons of force is required to break your bone. So you need to understand if the bone is broken with a very slow velocity or with a very mild trauma, then that's something that you need to think. Why? Because it could be that the bone is weak. Okay, it could indicate some kind of porosis or some kind of a deficiency, like a vitamin D deficiency or a calcium deficiency. Okay, if it's an old lady and she falls in the kitchen or in the bathroom, and then she gets like a ICNF fracture, intracapsular neck of femur fracture, you can understand that. Why? Because she's postmenopausal, hormones have changed, and her bones have become porotic. And usually people don't even supplement those, those nutrients that they've lost after aging. Okay, so that you can understand if it's an old woman. But if it's a young chap and he falls and it's in the bathroom and gets a fracture, then you must think that there is something. Yeah, okay, that will come later on. But these are the things that you will be asked. Okay, how did the patient fall? And okay, so if he fell this way, which structures from the history itself? Okay, from the history itself, you can get a lot of answers. Okay, always remember, the answers to all your questions are not in any book, are not in any textbook, are not in any library, or not on the internet. It's in the patient. The patient is going to give you all the answers. Okay, if they hide some information from you, you will know that. Okay, even that you will know. It's not even the file. So the first thing that you should go when you go to a patient is not to see the file, but to talk to the patient. Talk to the patient, ask them specific leading questions. You are going to answer everything in your practice. Okay, usually people just read the file and then write the history. That file is a
Yeah.
very inaccurate.
That even I do.
Yeah, it's a
Even I
very
do.
inaccurate projection of what has happened to the patient. Okay, it is written from somebody else's perspective. Okay, some resident doctor, some nurse, or some very hurried professional has written it. Okay, and
Yeah.
usually it's not even accurate. Okay, so you need to know if the patient is not in a state that they can give you a history, ask the relative of the patient or ask the person who brought the patient into the hospital. They are the
Yeah.
witness. Okay, and in your history it would be wise to mention that the patient was not in the state to provide history, hence the history was obtained from a relative, a guardian, or from the medical record. Okay, you must mention that. Okay, so that is something that you need to understand. All right, so this is about history. As I said, history is going to give you a lots and lots of answer. Okay, so in your SOAP format, this is the subjective portion of it. Okay, what do you mean by subjective? It is different for every person. That is what is subjective. When you say pain is subjective, what does it mean? That your perception of pain and my perception of pain is different. Okay, it is very different. Your threshold of pain, my threshold of pain is different. Okay, similarly, attention, it is also subjective. Your attention span could be 10 minutes. My attention span could be 5 minutes. Okay. So it is different for different. You can't set a number to it. That is what subjective is. Okay. When you say something is objective, meaning it has a number attached to it. Okay. So objective. Objectively, range is reduced or the range is limited. That is subjective. But the range is limited and it is from 0 degrees to 70 degrees. 0 degrees to 60 degrees. That is your objective. Okay, because it's not going to change from person to person, right? If you take the goniometer, measure somebody's ROM today, and then you're going to measure that ROM tomorrow, it's not going to, obviously it can change, but the goniometer is going to give you the exact same value. Okay, it's absolutely reliable. Okay, so that is what it means, objective and subjective. Okay, so you need to, so this was all subjective because every patient's history is different. Okay, mechanisms of injury can be similar, but why it happened, how it happened, where it happened, it's everybody's history is different. You will never find two patients who are injured exactly the same way, exactly in the same place, exactly at the same time. It's never going to be like that. Okay, you can't have two people, not even within your own friend circle, two people are the same. Everybody is different. So every patient is also like that. You have to treat the patient just like any other individual. Okay, I want you to be able to communicate with the patient. This gives you a lot of answers. Okay, so that's your subjective part. Okay, so that's your history of present complaints. All right, this is very easy. Okay, we are done with half an hour, right? So you've just been able to cover that right now. But okay, let me give you a brief overview of the other portions also. Okay, is there anything you want to ask in particular?
No.
No, all clear so far, so good. Okay,
Clear.
so you've understood about history and everything, right? You know what to ask and how to document it now. Okay, try to write short pointers. Okay, in front of the patient, don't sit and write your case. Okay,
Yeah.
quick notes. Okay, remember, or if you can, with practice you'll be able to memorize whatever they say. You'll be able to remember it, and then you can go and jot it down later on in your classroom. Okay, so that is about your subjective part. Okay, now I'll just introduce basic what is structure and function, and then we'll stop. Okay, all right. We can continue it later on also. Obviously, we can have ICF can be several lectures. It's very difficult to explain it within half an hour. I've just introduced the topic to you. I'll quickly explain what is structure and function, and then I'll send you that beginner's guide that will make things very easy for you. Okay. Now just quickly write down these headings, and I'll tell you how to go about it. Okay. So now you have to know what is the structural integrity.
Yeah.
Then you need to know what are the structural impairments. So that's your next heading. Okay. Under impairments, make a table of 3 columns. Okay. Yeah. The first column will be the impairment. The first column
Sorry?
title, the first column's title is impairment. So write that impairment. Impairment.
Yeah.
Then supportive finding. Then clinical reason. The last column is clinical reason. Okay. Similarly, again you'll write functional integrity.
We have like this intact, impaired, and clinical reasoning.
Yeah, same way. That's the same.
Same, na?
Yeah. Intact is your integrity. Intact is integrity.
Yeah.
Okay, that is equal to intact meaning integrity, and impairment is impairment. Okay, impairment meaning something that is not normal. It has changed from what it used to be. Okay, then you have functional integrity. That's intact basically. And then you have functional impairments.
And then
Okay, and under
the
impairment.
clinical reasoning part is the most difficult part.
That is the most. That is where your understanding of surgery and medicine is going to come very handy. That is why they teach you surgery and medicine. Do you realize
But no
that?
one can actually remember surgery and medicine. That's really...
Surgery, medicine, and even physiology, anatomy, everything. Okay? So that clinical reasoning part is what is going to test everything you ever learned from first year to third year. Everything. Okay? And for that, you need to be very well versed with the conditions. Okay, you can't just write, underlying disease or underlying condition under that clinical reasoning part. You need to be very, very specific as to why that is happening. Okay, for that, you need to know the condition very well. If you know the condition very well, for example, okay, let's take again an example of, suppose, tell me what impairment would you like to discuss? Let me first.
Let's take the case of
Parkinson's.
Yeah.
Parkinson's disease. You want to know why that happens. Okay, first of all, if we're taking Parkinson's disease, we need to know what are the functional impairments and we need to know what are the structural impairments. Okay, so let me briefly explain what structural impairments mean. Okay, integrity is very easy. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Okay. So so if we are saying Parkinson's disease, let me explain it to you. Okay. So when you say structure, okay, you need structure is structure. Structure is your cell, your tissue, now in case of Parkinson's disease, what is happening in Parkinson's disease is basically neurodegeneration of the extrapyramidal tract, isn't it? Neurodegeneration of the extrapyramidal tracts, and you have all those different features, Lewy body formation, and then you have depletion of your dopaminergic circuits, and you have depletion of your neurotransmitters. All of that is the underlying reason. Okay, it is because of that you are seeing tremors. It's because of that you are seeing the fascination. You are seeing gait abnormalities. You are seeing rigidity. All of that is because of that pathology. Okay, so basically your pathology comes under your structural impairments. Okay, so in Parkinson's disease, your structural impairment is the neurodegeneration of the extrapyramidal tract. Why? Because the extrapyramidal tracts are structurally affected. Okay, so it's like you can see that there is a pathological damage that has been done. It's not just that there is reduction in the function. Okay, the reduction in the function has happened because there is neurodegeneration. Okay, is that clear enough? Okay, so that is your structural impairment in Parkinson's disease. Okay, what is it? Neurodegeneration of your extrapyramidal tracts. Okay, even decreased circulation of your neurotransmitter. I think it is the dopaminergic circuits that are affected. Even that is a structural impairment. Okay, right? But it is manifesting in terms of functional impairments, which is what? Affection of gait, affection of tone, okay, affection of range of motion, affection of your, there is tremors happening, isn't it? So all that is your function. Okay. So those are your symptoms. Okay. How your symptoms are, sorry, your signs or symptoms, whatever you would say, that comes under your functional impairments, isn't it? So functional impairments, it's very clear from the title itself. Function is impaired. And how do we usually define function as? We define function as pain, range, strength, all of that comes under your function. You can make a note of this. Okay. So under function, you have pain,
We have those domains now. Are you talking about that?
yeah, those domains, exactly. In the checklist, you have the domains, right?
Yeah.
So that is that. Pain, range, strength, tone, all of this comes under your functional impairments. Okay. Structural impairments. Under structural impairments, usually things that are affecting your structure. So, for example, a fracture affects your bone. So, a fracture is a structural impairment because you can see it on the X-ray, isn't it? Now, if we take the example of the fracture, then the impairment is discontinuity in the bone. Okay, you can't just write fracture. Okay, what is the definition of a fracture? There is discontinuity in the bone. Okay, so the discontinuity in the bone becomes your impairment. भैया आपने फोन किया है क्या? Anyway, sorry.
Ma'am, give me a second. Can I get the charger? My battery.
Sure.